Let's have a look. Refresh. I have got comments, but whether they actually... I'm going to keep it there. If those comments keep flowing properly, like they're supposed to, I can put my phone away, but I'll keep my eye on it. Right, Polly. Now, Polly, I think I told you this, but I've made, and we're all colour coordinated, I've made the lining already, okay, just to save a wee bit of time. So everything I do on the bag itself, which I haven't made, is the same for the lining, okay, and it's exactly the same, it's identical. Look, I'm keeping it that way because that's the correct way for me to put it later on inside the bag. It's got the pleats on the top like it should have, and it's good to go. Now if you wanted to, you could put a pocket in there, but I've been road testing my other one that I made for maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks now, and I haven't found the need, because it's a smaller bag, I haven't found the need to put a pocket in. Everything is pretty much close to hand. Look, there we are. This is the one I made for the pattern. It's pretty much close to everything's there. So up to you. I'm going to leave it up to you if you want to put like a patch pocket in or something like that. Like I say, because it is a smaller bag. Sorry, I need to lift it up because you can't see. And of course it's got the magnetic clips there. Now I use the green machine. I make no apologies for that because it's so much easier than doing it the other way. So my magnetic closures can go on right at the very end, which normally you wouldn't do for magnetic closures, okay? So I will talk about that when we get to that point, okay? We talk about alternatives. But I do have that security because obviously they clip together. I'll show you one and you can gather what the other one does. But you do have that little bit of security because the handles are quite long. It will go over your arm, so you can tuck it under your arm for security again if you want to, if that's something that concerns you. Now this fabric is from the French Linen Company, which their website is closed. Everything is closed at the moment because they're on their holidays, and I will share it when they're back again. But I've got something pinging going on. But I actually patched this fabric together. This didn't come as patchwork, and I say that in the pattern, that it was actually lots of different half meters, and I patched that together. So I'm not being very good at my camera tonight, goodness knows why. Yeah, so that's just because I really wanted to use all the fabrics. I couldn't resist. So this is obviously the end result. Now let's just start again. I'll leave that there. So I have made the lining. You've got your pattern pieces, there they are. So you need to download the pattern to get your pattern pieces. They're fully explained. If you've got any queries, always email me. Kath or I will pick up the email and we'll figure out what your query is, and we'll try and sort it out for you. I have created all the bits and pieces, so I think it's just a case of stitching. So, oh, excuse me, you know I always get a throat. Let's have a look. Let's have a look on my phone. Oh, yeah, we're okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the pattern off my screen, okay, because that's easier for me. I've gone past the part where I cut everything out. I've put H630 on everything, okay, everything has H630 on it. So I'll put you on the side camera in a sec, or the overhead. Well, let's do the overhead now, shall we? Then we can see what we're doing. Here we go. Let's move that out of the way. So this is the pattern. Now this fabric was actually I had 4 table mats to make, which, you know, we never do these things, do we? We have full intentions, but we never seem to get to do it. And I picked 2 out, and I thought, well, that would make an absolutely super bag. And then it had like fabric for like a border, so I used that for my gusset, which is just sensational, isn't it? And then I had to, well, these are the straps, so there's 2 borders, so I'm not quite in the middle today. So I managed to get the two straps out of the border fabric, which happened to be in the panel. And then on the binding, and I've just done a straight binding, but you could use, oh, I just realised you can't see me. Just 1 second. Let me just see if I can highlight that. Oh, bear with. Bear with. I'm not sure I can. Sorry that I'm just moving myself about. I don't know if I can move that down. Just bear with. Ah, there you go. Ah, hurrah! I love technology. Right, yeah, for the binding, mine was just a wee bit short, so I've got, I think it'd probably work out okay actually. So both ends, I've got a little bit of, it's not the selve edges, but it's more like the background fabric that's just plain. So I've kind of gone with it because I wanted this round the binding of my bag, and I had to join it in the middle as well, but you can hardly see, for goodness sake. And I think it'll work out. But bias binding is actually quite good because it will go around the corners a wee bit better. So let me just, I've got some notes on here. Yeah, that's fine. That's lovely. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to put the gusset on the bag. Now, when I looked at the pattern, I thought maybe we should have done the pleats first. And if you've got the pattern piece, this is something you really need to do, is to mark out where your pleats are. So all I do is a little dot like that. Turn that over, line it up again. Now I can see the dots, they're sort of here. And so I'm just going to mark that again. And I thought, oh, maybe it would be better to do the pleats before we make the bag up. But I'm going to stick with the pattern because that would be rude if I did anything different. So all I do is line it up, can you see? And then I just pull it down. And it's not, you know, life-threatening if you put them in slightly the wrong way. So don't worry about it. So with the pleats, you're going to fold, and it says in the instructions, I'm just going to read out what it says. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, I better not do the pleats first, had I? No, because it doesn't say that in the pattern. I've just said I'm not going to. Right, I'll leave that as it is. I'm going to put the gusset in. So you need to find the centre of your gusset, okay? Isn't this fabric delightful? And for the first day of official autumn, isn't it? Because it's officially the end of summer yesterday. So it must be the start of autumn today, surely. There's not a middle bit, is there? So just do yourself a little notch. I mean, a tiny notch. You don't want to chunk out 1/4 of an inch. You just want a little snicket out of it. Just enough for you to see. If I put that down, nope, can't see it, but it's there, look. Can you see that on my finger there? Just a little tiny V. And then what you're going to do, I've got too much stuff on my desk, hold on, is just match these up, because it's getting the centre correct really sets you up well for the rest of it. And so do your centre and then bring the ends round and match up the ends either side. You can then go back in and put in more pins around the curves then, okay, once you've done that. But I'll only put 2 more in. So we've matched up these 2 bits and the centre. And you can see, without even trying, that that's going to fit nicely on there. Okay, can you see? Without hardly a whisper of manoeuvring, that's going to fit. So you could just take one of your pins and just hold that down if you want to. And the secret to putting in a gusset like this is to make sure that both your edges of your bag and your gusset are absolutely parallel with each other all the way round. If they're not, it will not fit. I promise, it will not fit, because you're changing the dimensions of both pieces, okay? So bear that in mind. So by just putting those pins in, look, you can see that that's fitting beautifully. And there's let me just have a quick look at my pattern. Yeah, and I've put in nearly the same amount of pins on the pattern. And then we're just going to stitch that in. So I've just got to move a couple of bits, and we're all at 6s and 2 3s today. So I'll just put you on the side camera. Let's bring that in. Now I would set that at 1/4 inch if you can. Mine defaults to a stitch length of 2 because it sees it as a quilting stitch. But I always up it to either 2.4 or 2.6, and sometimes even bigger than that, depending what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got the gusset attached to the main bag, doesn't matter front or back, and we're going to stitch from this little corner here to this little corner up here, and we're just going to ease it in as we go. Always have the gusset on the top, because I regard that as the straight edge. Even though it's slightly curved, it is the straight edge. And if you wanted to, you can snip in to the gusset, not anything else, just the gusset. So if you find it useful, and I'll get my nice snippy scissors, you could go in, I'm trying not to cut both layers, and just do a little snippage. Not too much, you just really don't have to go crazy. But 1/8 of an inch in, that's all. Can you see what that looks like? If I do that, yeah, not much. So let's get going. And like everything, you just want to take your time and just enjoy it, basically, and don't fret about anything. Right, here we go. You ready? So we're just going to ease our way round. I've got my stiletto in case I need it. And we're just going to take it around. Now I'll go fastish. You don't have to go fastish. You just take your time. Hopefully you can see enough to make it make sense. Okay, so just take it round the corner. Now you might find that the H630 sticks to your machine bed. So sometimes you have to sort of work with it. You could put your slidey mat on if you've got one. That'll help. Or the usual trick of mine is to use talcum powder. There we go. Take that pin out. And there's quite a long straight edge at the bottom of the bag. I keep getting hooked up with something there. So just keep going round. And what you have to do is kind of ease those sort of folds in so you don't get big pleats. And like I say, if you snip, it's so much easier. Hopefully you can see okay. Good. So you can see I'm using my pokey tool, my stiletto, to really help me with the fabric. And if you're slightly different, when you get to the top here and you've got a little bit of extra fabric, I don't want you to worry about it. I would just trim it off and forget that ever happened. So we just trim that. Excellent. Good, so that's 1/2 done. See how easy that is. So if I turn it that way, there you go, you can see we've got 1/2 done. So now we need to pin the other half. So let me change the angle. Just push that away again. Okay, it's looking good, isn't it? We haven't done much. I'm like, oh, I love it. So again, we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to match up our centre, and we're still going to stitch with gusset on the top. Okay, we're not going to change that at all. That's always should be what you do. If you do it the other way around, it's just a little bit more difficult to stitch. Okay, so let's put a pin in that side. I don't know what I've done with, oh, there they are. It's hiding, the mouse was hiding my pins. Naughty mouse. There we go. And then you can see it kind of just fits. It just fits. But just pop a pin in. You might find using a walking foot the best option when putting layers like this together, because a lot of machines, they'll push the fabric along on the top and no, what am I thinking? On the bottom, and you're left with a little bit of extra, which is a bit annoying really. But on a Juki we have something called a dual feed, and it acts like a walking foot all on its own self. So there we are, so that's pinned in. So now we're going to stitch that little section together. So let's pop that in. You see okay? I'm just going to have a little slurp of my drink. That's better. So don't forget, we're stitching again on the gusset, so it looks like that. There's your bag, there's the gusset, and we're going to stitch from where my thumb is. So my pins are in upside down, but that doesn't matter. I can cope with upside down pins. There we go. So once again I get my stiletto to just hold the fabric. It holds it much better than your hands, because I kind of stab it. I kind of stab this into the fabric. So let's whizzle around this. Don't forget, keep those fabrics absolutely parallel, so the raw edges are sitting absolutely on top of each other. And adjust if they're not. So just wriggle it round. Now don't forget, this is done with H630 because I want it to be a sloppy bag, a real soft, plumptious, well, not plumptious, but a sloppy bag. So you might want to change it for 8020 or H640. Whatever your preference is. I wouldn't use Bosal because we're doing pleats. That's Bosal in our form, the foam stabilizer. I wouldn't use that personally. You haven't got a brilliant view, but I think you get the gist of what I'm doing. Yeah, so if you have other ideas of what you would like to put in as your stabilizer, then please do. There's no rules as to what you should use, different to me. It's whatever you like, isn't it? So there we are, we're just on the home straight now. So you can see I use my pokey tool in place of the pin really, and I hold it there so I know it's going to meet up, and then I make sure that the rest of it behaves itself thereabouts. But like I say, if you go over a little bit, you can always snip it back. That's perfectly acceptable. So just take that long end off. So we just, look, can you see I'm over just a tiny bit, but I'm not going to bother with that. I'm not even going to think about that. So there we are. So there is, let's have a look overhead. There is the main part of the bag done. Okay, and at this stage I would give this a press. You see where the seams are? I would give that a press. If you haven't got a tailor's ham, then just roll up a piece of soft wadding, something like that, and just stuff it into the curves and get your iron on that. And even if you hold something in there and get your little iron and just pop it over there, just so it gives you a nice finish. That's what I would do. Okay, so moving on down the pattern. So that was easy enough, wasn't it? So we've done that bit. So you need to mark where your pleats are, which we did just before. So 2 pleats, well, yeah, 1 pleat there, 1 pleat there. Repeat on the other side. And on the instructions it says take the innermost mark over to the right to match the outermost mark. So that might mean complete gibberish to you. I wouldn't blame you if you thought that. But there's your innermost mark on that 1 pleat, and you're taking it over to the outermost. So you're just bringing those 2 marks together. Now you could use a clip now because you've got multiple layers. So, but I'm just going to pin. And then you're taking the innermost one and you're taking it over to the outermost. And you're just popping a pin in, and we're going to baste these down so that your pleats go out. To be honest, if they go in, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, okay? It's your bag, you can do with it as you wish. So there's the innermost, let's go over to the outermost. Give it a pin. And then repeat on the other side. Oh, I've only got one. Oh, there it is. It was hidden by the foliage. Hidden by the foliage. And pin. So look, we've got the 4 pleats in. Now, obviously you could do this before you do the gusset. Common sense tells me that that's what you can do. But I'm following, excuse me, I'm following the pattern. That's how it tells you to do it. It's always best to do the pattern. And then afterwards you think, hold on a minute, I could have done that a better way. Which is what I thought this afternoon. Hold on a minute. So now I'm going to pop it under my machine and I'm going to baste those 2 pleats down. I'm going to start here and then I'm just going to run straight across. I'm not stopping, no point stopping. So you're about 1/8 of an inch and you're going from there all the way over to here. You're going past the end of the pleat. Okay, don't finish on the pleat, it'll come undone. So go beyond the pleat on both sides. Okay, and I'm just moving my needle now to just its regular position, not 1/4 inch. So you can just about see, there's my pin. I'll take that out because the machine's holding it. Oh, and it moved it. Typical. There we go. And straight across. So this is where you get your stiletto, Lizzie. Okay, cut that. And then we'll repeat on the other side. So you can see it will be easier without the gusset, obviously. So again, I'll keep the pin in right to the last moment this time. So you're doing about, as I say, about 1/8 of an inch, just within the seam allowance, if you can manage it. At the end of the day, if when you stitched your bag together and you can see the stitches, the basting, just unpick it. Just unpick it. It's no bother, is it? There you go. So there's those pleats done. So while we're here, oh, I better follow the pattern. I was just tempted to go off piste then. Let's not. Let's not, Lizzie. Let's do what the pattern says. So now we've got the pleats in the bag, which makes it a nice puffy shape. Look. Nice plumptious puffy shape. Okay, so let me just have a look at the pattern. See what it says. Ah, we're doing the straps next. Excellent. Okay, straps. Let me get you on the overhead. So we've got 2 straps, and I left these deliberately till tonight to show you what I do. So they're going to be just stitched on one seam and then turned through. Now turning through, it depends on whether you've got the tools or not, can be a little bit tricky, and this is quite narrow really. A trick you can do, which is pretty common to everybody, is that you can, now I use selvage, I will use ribbon, but it will rip if you're not careful. You could use a thin cord, but the main thing you've got to do is to stitch it well in place. Okay, so I'm going to use this piece of selvage. It goes long, it's longer than the actual strap. Look. But the main thing is to stitch it really well here, because you're going to put a lot of force on that when you pull through. But the other thing to remember is to keep it away from the seam allowance. All right, so it's well, I suppose it's in the middle. I mean, you can go in the middle, go there if you like. Yeah, might as well put it there. But that's going to take an awful lot of strain, so I don't want you to just do one row of stitching. I want you to do 2 or 3 rows of stitching to hold that in place. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. So let's bring in the machine, and we're just going to stitch across. Now don't worry about seam allowances with this. You want it up the top really, but don't worry about whether it's 1/4 of an inch in or 1/8 of an inch or anything like that. We're going to unpick the stitches. So then I take it back. It does go fast on my machine when it goes back, and I'm going to do it again. Okay. The main thing to remember now is when you stitch these together, you just want to make sure that that's out of the way. Okay. I mean, this is quite a wide bit. It doesn't have to be that wide. That's how I just happen to cut it. But it's a selvage is really strong. It's the side of the when they weave it, the fabric, where it's really strong. So it's a good thing to use. So you're just right sides together, and you're just going to stitch all the way down the long length of that fabulous strap. So let me just change mine to 1/4 of an inch again. Right, so just tuck that selvage in, or whatever you're using. And just whiz down. Just keep your eye on it and make sure it is tucked in. Let's get that in there. Now these are quite long straps for a small bag, but the idea was that you could put it under your arm, basically. There we go. Right, let's give that a cut. While we're waiting, we'll just plug the iron in, because we really will have to give those a press. Okay, so we've done one, and I'm going to use the same piece of selvage to do the other one. So let's turn this one through. Oops. Change my machine to a decorative stitch, that won't do. Okay, so there's your open end. Oh no, there's your end with the bias bind. There's the end with the selvage stitched in. This is the end that you need to pull. Now the idea is that you set it off. So you give it a little pull, so you've got a bit of gather here. And then that gather wants to go inside the tube. I mean, to be honest, it will probably do it on its own. But sometimes I like to give it a bit of a helping hand. Okay, tell it who's boss, like everything else. And then you can feel it going through. It's lovely. It's a lovely feeling. Hey, here I am. Okay, so open that up. Oh, Joan, you see what I mean? Joan's first time she's watched tonight, and she's thinking, goodness gracious, what on earth? Yep, but there. That's how it is. That's how we rock and roll. Okay, so you can unpick this. I've left my little embroidery scissors downstairs. I'm doing some applique. I was waiting for some special thread, which came today, I'm pleased to say. And I'm going to do my applique using that special thread. And I left my embroidery scissors down there. So now we've got the tube. Obviously it needs an iron, okay? So what we need to do is the other one. So same piece of selvage, and we're just going to stitch it again, just as we did before, really nice and strong. And we're going to turn this one through, and then we'll give them both a good iron. There we go. So let's stitch that. Let me put it back to right. So I'm going to say to regular stitching, not the 1/4 inch. Sometimes it throws me when I'm doing just a regular little bit of stitching to have my 1/4 inch there, but I'm going to change it to 1/4 inch now and up the stitch length. Does your machine default to like a 2 or a 1.8 if you're doing, if you've changed it to a 1/4 inch? Sometimes it's just not what you want. Right, so right sides together. And just be, as I say, as before, just be careful of that bit of selvage. Do you want me to move me out of the way? There we go. So my selvage is tucked in here, look, there you go. Been all over the place today. In, out, shake it all about. So I posted about the 12 days of Christmas today. I know it's early, don't shoot the messenger. But I put it back on my website, so we've got it there ready. And this year we're going to do traditional blocks, but with a spring theme. We've done kind of a spring theme before, because I think by the time you get to just past Christmas, I mean, you're kind of perhaps a bit fed up with Christmas. So I try not to do anything too Christmassy, even though it is the 12 days of Christmas, I know. So yeah, it's just how I rock. So there we are. So that's in, that's still in there. Okay, so I'll keep it there for a moment and show you what I do. So I just pull that, so I'm pulling this selvage and I'm making it so it's a little bit ruckled up the end. Okay, a little bit of ruckling going on there. And what I tend to do, depends really, is I tend to tuck that in. You don't have to, but it does help sometimes, okay? It does help sometimes. Here's Millie. Hello, Millie. We've been for a walk, you're all panting. And because we've just tucked it in, that should now be easy. Let me just put you on the overhead, because then I've got more room. There we go. Yeah, so once you've tucked it in, it's then child's play, she says, to pull it through. Look. Oh, I've swapped down to the bottom again. Perhaps it's just on that screen it stays like that. I don't know. So that end is out, that end is out. And you're going to settle down, Millie. Oh, she's gone all the way around. Millie the Tibetan Terrier. She's on so many herbal things for her scratching and itching. She was on a particular drug, but it had side effects of possible cancer, right? And it just so happens that she got cancer. So we've stopped giving her that in the hope that she doesn't get cancer again. A great big lump on her leg, poor doggy. So now she's on herbal remedies to stop the itching. Well, I'm not sure it works. Anyway, look, there's our strap. So we just need to give that a nice press. I'm not doing too badly for time, so it might go beyond the time scheduled. Hope you don't mind. Right, so we're just going to press these straps. Now they won't go crispy because they've got the wadding in other words, they're not going to be super flat. Try and get that seam in there going the same way, but if it twists, don't worry. You know, crikey, it's not worth the effort. But if it stays on one particular side, then you've won. You get a bonus point. Yes, it won't go crispy because of the wadding inside. In other words, it's not going to be a super flat strap, which I like. It goes with the character of the bag being all soft and squidgy. But you might want to, oh gosh, that's hot. You might want to stitch down the sides there. I haven't, and I'm not going to. But you might want to, okay, because that will kind of stiffen it up and flatten it out. But you don't have to. I wanted this to be like, you know, like a sloppy Joe, like a throw it around sort of bag. And as I said, I've been road testing my other one that I made for, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks, perhaps longer, I can't remember. And I've really enjoyed it. The only time when I wished it was bigger was when I've gone out to lunch with John to La Hogue and we end up getting snacks. And there's only so much snacks you can fit into it. So if you want a bag that, you know, will take your snacks, then obviously we've got, actually, Kath's going to be doing the workshop on Jenna. Jenna is a sort of size bag, or Xavier is a good size bag, but anyway. What's the other one? I can't remember. Something Jackie Thomas will remember, the other bag. Right, so there's our straps. Done. Super dupes. So the straps go on the end. Now you want to put the seam facing you, okay, and it goes just at the end of that pleat. It goes there. I'm going to get some clips. I like clips when I've got some bulk. They're not very bulky, but you know. Okay, so can you see the seam in the middle and the edge of the pleat there? So track your strap round. This is going to be such a nice bag with this fabric. Clip the other one, and because we're looking at the seam, when we flip it so it goes right way, it's the right way. Okay, not that it matters, but it's, you know, you'll be fed up if you had it the other way around. So once again, I'm going to just butt up the strap against that pleat, and I'm just going to clip it, track it round so it's not twisted, and clip it. Okay, and we're going to baste those down just like we did the pleats. We're going to just do that to hold them in place so we don't have to worry about them, and that we haven't got the movement of all the different layers. I mean, that would drive you crazy. And also, if there's a, oh, I'm still up there, look, I'll keep up there. We're all in purples and pinks tonight. That's okay. Right, so I'm just going to pop that under the machine, and again I'm just going to baste. So I'm going to put it back on its, I think, yeah, I'm okay. I was going to put it onto the regular stitch. I don't want 1/4 inch. So look, there's one strap attached, but I'm going to do exactly what I did before and just, what is the point of cutting your threads off there? None. None. If anybody says, oh, but you're saving thread, no. So you're coming all the way along, and of course it's reinforcing your pleats. And go beyond. Go a good 1/2 inch beyond, because that's what keeps your straps straight. In actual fact, if you did a second row of stitching above, that's what keeps your straps straight, but I'm not going to bother. So there's your 2 straps one side, and tuck it under, put down. Can we see? Yeah, we can see. The fabric, it doesn't help, it's very busy, isn't it? And then straight across, zoomy zoom. You don't have to do zoomy zoom, okay? You just do plod along, a safe. Oh, now John has just got himself a new car. It's identical to my car except it's orange. He's got the app, same as me, and he's found one bit of the app tells you about the journeys that you've taken and what speeds you were going. Whoops. Yep, red-handed. Oh gosh, yeah. He said, so when you went to your dad's, what sort of speeds were you going? I said, well, I tend to stick to about 60, which is not a lie. Until he looked at the app. I'm not saying anything. Right, so there's your bag, there's your outer, that's going to stay exactly how it is. there's the lining. It's exactly what we did with the outer bag, so it's exactly the same, except it doesn't have straps attached to it, and we're just putting that inside that. Look, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And the easiest thing to do is to get your two seams where the gusset is. You can see that, can't you? And you're just going to marry those up and nest the seams if you want. Okay, so I'm going to put a clip in there, and I'm going to put a clip in there. I've got a few threads hanging around, but I'll trim them off if they show when I'm finished. So go round to the other side, get your two seams. Now don't forget, this was a little bit cockeyed there. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of trimmage, and it absolutely won't make a jot of difference to the finish of the bag, so I don't want you to worry about trimmaging. So excuse me, marry your seams up. I get such a tickle in my throat these days. Marry those seams up. Try not to pleat, which is exactly what I've just done. Get the other one, just get rid of those, and marry those up. Okay, so you've got your two gussets now attached, if you like. So let's get another couple of clips. Now then, the next stage is putting the binding on. You could absolutely put the binding on, baste this all around and then put the binding on, and that's really sensible. I can't remember what I said in the pattern. Just one moment. Let's have a look at the pattern. Place them out, basics. Yeah. Oh, we haven't done the binding, right? Okay. Place them around, clip them. I don't think I've said. Clip. Oh, bases here. Although that's the straps. No, I haven't said. So the option is yours. The other thing to do is to match up your pleats. So can you see there's a pleat, and the pleat for the bag is here, or the edge of it is here next to the strap. So just line those up. The rest of it then should fit nicely, as she says, which it doesn't. That's because I've moved the wrong, I've attached the wrong bit. Let's just attach that, and let's attach that. So you want to go to the inside edge of your pleat on your lining, okay? So the inside edge matches up to your straps there, look, okay? Because you're doing the opposite. So once again, inside edge of your pleat of your lining to the edge of your strap, and repeat. So you've got the fold of your lining there, the pleat, and then you've got the pleat sitting on top, look, and the strap there, and they should all sit together. And because we've done that, all of that is beautiful, and it's going to sit lovely inside. Love the purple interior, don't you? Woo, lovely. And of course there's no turning gap. So if you've pressed everything well, that should fit in there beautifully, and you have actually got almost your bag made. So the next thing is to do the binding. Now, like I say in the pattern, you could have bias binding, absolutely, okay? And I've bound the top of this bag like you would a quilt. I've doubled over my binding, so I've folded it in half lengthways. And the actual wadding, the H630, goes up just to the middle. And just to save my, and I'll probably have to trim this back, we'll see how we go. And just to save my iron, I'm just going to iron that on. I've folded it over, but that has stuck to this side, not this side. But this acts as a sort of protector for my iron. So as long as you've got that up to the middle, yeah, fold that over and then give it a press. And you'll probably have to then flip it over again and press from the other side, okay? So line it up to the middle, flip and press. And then we'll go along the other side. The great thing about a wool mat is that you get that deflective heat, so whatever you're ironing is so hot, so watch your fingers, guys. I was watching Adrienne today doing her live in her group, and she had William with her, my grandson, and she said something about, right guys, this is what we do, and he said, they're not guys. So she said, well, no, they're not guys, we're just saying, right guys. And he said, well, say what Grandma says. Grandma says gals. She said, well, yes, I could say gals, yes, I could. I love it that he was telling her what to do. Quite right. You all need keeping in line. Right, so we're just making that nice. Hopefully we've glued it. Let's assume we have, even if perhaps it might not all be glued. Right, now the wadding side, because if you remember, we've only put that wadding on 1/2, goes to the outside. Okay, so just think that when you attach this to your bag, because we want a nice soft squidgy binding. We don't want a pathetic thin nasty one. We want a nice squidgy one. I mean, it's not super squidgy because it's H630, but we want one that's, well, I wanted it almost to roll, if you like. Now how we start is this, and how we finish is something different. So you're gonna leave about a couple of inches or so, that much. Maybe that's about 4 centimeters. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to leave about that much. I could measure it. Let me measure it. I think I said in the pattern anyway. That's 3 inches. You're going to start 3 inches in, okay? And you're going to start, hopefully this works. If it doesn't, you are absolutely not going to notice the seam, all right? So we're going to start the 3 inch where my thumb is. We're going to put it roughly in the middle of our gusset, okay? And that is not crucial. And we're going to start stitching from about where my clip is, or even perhaps over here. We're not going to we are not going to start stitching here, and we're not going to start stitching right in the center. We're going to kind of start maybe, let's say, 1 inch away, so just round the corner. So there's your gusset seam there, and we're just going to go round the corner, okay? Now, because this is a straight binding, and ideally you're going to use bias, you are going to have to maneuver that around, okay? So you need to be able to catch the lining and the outer bag. I would suggest strongly that you baste those two together and then you put your binding on, and that means you won't have all of these different things to think about. So we're going to start stitching there, and can you see I'm using the whole folded piece like we would if we were making a quilt, because I really wanted to do that. And then we're just going to flip it over and we're going to hand stitch it, or you could machine it if you're happy to do that. Now if you're running out of time watching me, and if you're on, this is going to go on YouTube, you won't make a jot of difference to you on YouTube, but if you are watching this live now in Facebook, and you need to go, please go. The video will be there for you to watch whenever. So I'm going to take my table off, my little extension, and I'm going to pop my bag around it, and I'm just going to start stitching. Now, because of the nature of all of this, you're not going to see huge amounts now, okay? I'm just going to take some of these clips out, but I'm going to do my best to explain and show and tell, okay? So we're just starting off, and we're just starting off just beyond the gusset seam, which is just here. Hard to see with this fabric. But then I'm just going to track this binding 1/4 inch all the way around, just like as if you were going to be binding a quilt. And you want to make sure that your lining and your outer are sitting together nicely, okay? So here's the binding, here's the top of the bag here, and we're just stitching the two together. And as I say, you want to be making sure that you're catching all the layers. But if you clipped where I've said, you know, if you used your clips and you've clipped where I've said, they should be absolutely fine. But keep an eye on it. You'll see me checking. I don't take anything for granted. Because, you know, you don't want to unpick it, do you? So when we come to the gusset, the other end, just going to straighten it all up. You see, okay? It's difficult because with this fabric it's so busy, but study it closely. And then just sneak around, because obviously you've got the shape of the bag to consider. You've got the fact that for me, I'm using straight binding. If you're using bias, oh, it'll work like a charm. Let's just move that lining over a fraction. And just make sure that your straps are sitting straight as well, because sometimes they will twist. Okay, now we're coming round to where we started. So really what I want you to do is to stop where the other gusset seam is. So let's get to that point. Okay, cut my threads. Okay, so here we are. So we've got, and this is the kind of complicated bit really. So we've got two ends, and we've got that space, can you see, where we started here, we finished here. Now what I want you to do is to bring these two ends together so they match. So sometimes this is a bit fiddly, okay? So if I bring that to about there, put my thumb over, and I bring this one, so that meets there, and I put my thumb over, oops, there we go, if I can, right, and I'm squidging that because that's going to give me a crease, and that is where I'm going to stitch. Now we're not doing a 45-degree join, this is not a quilt, this is a bag, and this is on the gusset, so we're not too, we are fussed, but we aren't going to make a song and dance about it, and we're just going to stitch these two pieces together as they are folded. We're not going to open up the binding, we're not going to do a 45-degree, we're going to be really naughty and just stitch these two together. And all the time I'm talking to you, I'm pinching that because that's where I want to stitch. So now I've got two pinched pieces. I doubt whether you can see it. There's a little pinched piece here, a little pinched piece there, and I'm just going to use that as my guide to stitch together. So I'm just pulling them apart, and I know where my pinch mark is, I can see it. All you've got to do is to, let me put this on a back stitch. All I need you to do is to make sure that the two seams of the folded parts are pretty good, are together, you know, as best you can. I say that as a disclaimer. Okay, and then little back stitch, cut your threads. So we've joined them together. See the seam there? Just make sure that's going to fit. Well, yeah, could probably go in a fraction more, to be honest. But then you want to trim. And just trim all that away. There's lots of threads here. I'll just trim those away. And I could, look, can you see it's a little bit lumpy bumpy? So I'm just going to take that in another fraction. And it's okay to do that, because we haven't got a set, well, you could measure it properly. I mean, it always depends on people's stitching, doesn't it, most of the time. Then it's easier to do it this way, and it's a good thing to do. It's a good technique. So there we are, that's fitting actually quite a lot better. So then you're just going to finish that off. So pop it under your machine and just finish that little bit of a seam off. Okay. And okay, so that is the binding done. And then all we're going to do, just move that away a bit, is we're going to turn it over to the, so we're going to take, we're going to take our binding and we're just going to take it over to the back like we would if we were doing a quilt, and we're going to hand stitch it. Obviously I'm not going to hand stitch it now, but I'll show you how to put the, if you've got a green machine, I'll show you how to put the magnetic bits in. Okay, so you're going to just go round and hand stitch this. If you want to, you can machine, but don't forget you would need it to be fairly neat, so take your time with it all. As I say, just fold it over and clip it. You can see how it's looking, and then you're just going to hand stitch that. Okay, obviously I'm not going to do that now. But what I have got to do is to bring my straps up. Now again, this is optional, so I wanted to talk to you about. This is optional, right? I'll keep it there so you can see. I'll get that out of the way. Because we can leave our straps just like this, because when we hold our bag, the handles are going to pull all that up. It's going to sit fairly well, but what it's not going to do, it's not going to sit well over the binding. Okay, the binding is going to sort of sit separately. So you could stitch a little button, or you could machine stitch it across here to hold it in place, or you could stitch a button there to hold the strap and the binding all together so it sits like that all the time. Or you're going to do what I'm going to do and put in a magnetic closure. And like I say, I haven't stitched this, so it's not ideal, but I'll do it. I'll do it just for you. So I'm going to put I'm going to try and make sure, I'll only do one. I'm going to try and make sure that my binding is exactly where I want it to be, because if not, it ain't going to look nice. Let me just do that a bit more. That's it. Get that one a bit better. Because obviously you want to hand stitch this, then you do your, if you've got a green machine, you're going to do the magnetic closure. So again on the other side, you just press that down. Oh, that's a stiff clip. And then along here, like that. I want to get that so it's nice. Take that round a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to do opposite sides. So I'm just going to do this pair, if you like. I'm going to ignore the other because I shall want to hand stitch it. Okay, so let's move the green machine in. And I've already got one of the pieces. Oh, crikey, that is so heavy. And it doesn't matter, it does not matter which side of your bag which bit goes into, as long as they're consistent. So whatever you do on this side with your bag handles, yeah, you do the same that side. So if you've got the outie on this one, you want the outie on that one. So, which is what I'm going to do now. So that's what I call the outie. That one, the one that sits proud. Okay, sorry, flashing. And that sits in the machine, just there, look. And then we need a little button. We get the button for the second one ready. And I need the opposite, so I need the innie, which is that one. Okay, so let's pop those away. Oh no, I need oh dear, wretched throat. Yeah, that one. No, it isn't that one. Yeah, oh no, it is that one. So I still need to put a hole into all my layers, okay? So you might find this distressing, but I'm going to use my screw punch tool. It's an old one, but it's a good one. You can still get these on Amazon. I think I've got them in my shop. I'm going to use a double layer of a silicone, old embossing silicone mat, and even so I might go through my table, which I did the other day. So I'll put a little bit of fabric underneath. I don't really want a hole. So because we did a good job with the clips, I'm just going, and obviously what you're going to do is you're going to do your hand stitching of the binding. You're then going to press it really well, okay? You're going to press so it's beautiful and it's sitting correctly. You all right? You're not going to be like me and go gung-ho. So look, there's my strap coming over the top of the binding. And this is my screw punch tool. So we're just going to go all the way through. I might have to stand up. Make sure it's gone all the way through. And this is where we put the button, this side, because this is the pretty side. So the button goes into the machine, oops, like that. I've got the right gadget in there, and it just pushes in there. And then I've got the post, can you see the post there? That's just sticking out. And what I'm going to do is pop that, get rid of all my garbage. So the button is sitting on the top when we come to pop it in. So let's make sure I've gone all the way through. Oh, I didn't think I had. That's it. So the hole on the binding first, push that through, bring your strap over and pop it through the hole on your binding, on your strap. And there's a lot of fabric, so it's taking a while. So now, can you see? Just bring it over, hold on. There with. So there's my post coming through there, through all the holes. So it's going through the binding and the strap as well, and I've got my cap here. So all you need to do is press down. And it's on. Honestly, it's like a knife through butter when you do it with this machine. And then, so that's my, oh, I didn't look at that. I didn't catch the lining. Oh, I am annoyed. I might have to try and get that off. This is why you have to do it in the procedure I said. Make sure you hand stitch the binding. Oh, look, what a shame. But I'll sort that out. So because of that, I am not going to risk the other side. But the other side is exactly the same. So you bring the strap over, you put your screw punch tool or whatever you use through all of the layers, of which there's loads, and then you put in the right, so this one comes out, you put that one in, oops, and you put the right piece in, so this is the other half, that goes in there, upside down, look, and the button goes right side up into that top bit. Just push it in, and then you do exactly what I've just done, except you don't want to be doing that. Grr. I shall speak to John and see if he can get it out. But that's a good lesson to see, isn't it? Why you mustn't rush, because you don't want to end up with a bag that is kind of like ruined, isn't it? So let's have a look. Oh, let's go. Oh dear me. Right, so this is your bag. It's done. So how easy was that? I know I've got to do the binding, give me a break, but it's all done. So it needs a good press, it needs a little bit of hand stitching, it needs to have the rivets, the magnetic pieces put in properly. When we've done all that, it'll look absolutely beautiful, and I'll post a picture. Gorgeous fabric though, isn't it? Really lovely fabric. And there we are. Thank you very much. So hopefully that's okay. I'm sorry we've run over. It can't inevitable. We can't make a bag in an hour, can you? But I will rectify. I shall get John on the case. I just don't want him to rip it. Kath says, so pretty. She said she's got buttons. She's got buttons to put on hers. See, that's a good idea, because the buttons, it won't make it so it closes unless you do something else. But the buttons will look just as pretty. I'm sorry, I seem to be very far down today. The buttons will look just as pretty, and it'll hold that strap so it sits like that, and all the layers will sit properly together and not be separated by the binding, because if you didn't, the binding would sit proud. Can you see how that would sit proud? So yeah, buttons are brilliant. I nearly did that.